Fellas, this is the week, or this isn't a week of anything, but this is my third draft within the WPF Delta. I have a pretty incredible, pretty fun team. I wouldn't say it's incredible by any means, but I think it's going to be very fun. A very comfortable team that I'm pretty proud of. Now, hilariously, this is how my drafting process went before we get into the team. I went ahead and I decided that I was going to go into ChatGPT. I was going to come over here and I was going to say, okay, ChatGPT, how can you help me make a draft? I go, let's hope it brings up the Pokemon that I actually ended up drafting. I said, Chat, I have a Pokemon Draft League. It is Scarlet and Violet. I prefer a bulky offense. That's what I went ahead. I basically typed that into ChatGPT. I don't know what it's going to give me this time, but if if it gives me what I think it'll give me, there's one of them. Garchomp was the Pokemon that it gave me when I first decided to ask ChatGPT for help building my team. So that's exactly what I did. I drafted Garchomp as my first Pokemon in the drafting process. Garchomp is an incredible Pokemon. It has amazing sweeping potential. It has great hazards that it can set. It really is kind of just an everything mon. It does everything really, really well. It can be bulky with a rocky helmet. It can set up spikes and stealth rocks. It can sweep with Swords Dance and Scale Shot. It can just break with even a Banded Earthquake or even a mixed set like a Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, Earth Power set. Anything like that will definitely work out quite well. Garchomp is a Pokemon that I've never really used before, but I've always been interested in it because it just seems like a great roll compression mon. Like, it's a Pokemon that I could see myself throwing out, let's just say hypothetically, a Dragapult. I've noticed that the Dragapult is locked into a Shadow Ball. Garchomp will easily be able to take a Shadow Ball, and it can set up with Scale Shot. It can set up with Swords Dance. Maybe it's an electric type like Regieleki. Obviously, Regieleki into Garchomp is an absolutely atrocious matchup if it's not Terra. I swap Garchomp into Regieleki. If it goes for Rapid Spin, because I have hazards up or whatever, it's going to take damage on the Rough Skin ability. If it goes for a Thunderbolt, obviously I'm immune, and then I get to set up with a Swords Dance. I can set up with Substitute. I can set up with Scale Shot. I can click any move into that Regieleki. Garchomp is just such a good mon on paper. It has so much value to it. Powerful moves like Earthquake. It can use mixed sets with Draco and Fire Blast. It can set up Spikes and Stealth Rocks. It can Swords Dance, Sweep. Like, everything it does is relatively standard, but it's just so excellent at everything it can do. And it's a Pokemon that wasn't so difficult to build off of. For my next Pokemon, I went back to ChatGPT. I decided, hey, I like the idea of Garchomp. That sounds great. What is a good Terra Captain to pair with Garchomp? Something to deal with the Fairy and Ice types that threaten it. That's kind of what I said. If it's going to go with the same process that I had here, it's going to mention this Pokemon right here, Iron Moth. It resists the ice. It hits hard with Fairy. It can lay Toxic Spikes, which adds more to my hazards, which I tend to like. Not the bulkiest Pokemon of all time, but it can be with its high speed and access to booster energy and all these extra tools that help it be very, very bulky. Especially into special attackers, definitely not physical attackers as much. But that's what I did. And so it's my next pick as well. Iron Moth with Terra is an absolutely devastating wall breaker. It does so much damage to the enemy team. Iron Moth, just in general, also really benefits from Terra. Its crippling ground weakness, its weakness to Psychic and all that obviously is nice when you can just like Terra out of its weaknesses. Like if I'm coming into a fairy type, I can justify going or a psychic type, I can justify going Terra Dark. It's not amazing coverage, but it can be a good defensive typing, if especially if there's like a specific threat. So like I can change types into like Terra Water to hit the opposing ground types, maybe the fire types that can also wall me quite hard. If I wanted to go Terra Grass, that lets me hit the bulky water and ground types that want to come into Iron Moth all the time. It has a bunch of niche items, like I can run an air balloon, I could run a power or meteor beam set. It has strong setup potential with Fiery Dance. If I get lucky, Fiery Dance is an easy sweep move. It has pivot with U-turn. It can substitute up, obviously. It's just a naturally very powerful mon. Base 140 special attack is absolutely monstrous and titanic. It has pretty superb speed that pairs quite well with Garchomp. Garchomp always wants something to be slightly faster, or around that 110 speed range, because Garchomp, while fast, isn't exactly the speediest mon of all time. But this means something like Enamorus, which is naturally faster than Garchomp, can't always just click Earth, or like, you know, Moonblast into my entire team and then switch up to Earth Power against my fire type that it's naturally going to outspeed, because Iron Moth is faster than Enamorus. That can help out quite a lot. Iron Moth is just a really strong wall breaker at the end of the day. It's not always going to come in and tank an attack, but it can if it's an ice and fairy type. If I can switch into those attacks, Iron Moth isn't going to take an absolutely tremendous amount. It is pretty frail physically, so I might need to get something that'll deal with like these monstrous physical attackers like Azumarill. Like if I don't want to come and switch into a Play Rough, and then I can maybe Terra Water or Grass onto the Aqua Jet, but if it just goes for the Play Rough, that could still hurt Iron Moth quite a lot, especially if it's banded. I understand that it's 4 times resisted, but as an example, Iron Moth, typical Iron Moth sets that like maybe, let's just do the booster speed one, into a Choice Band Azumarill, the Play Rough still does like 30% to Iron Moth, and if I have to take Stealth Rocks along with that, Play Rough can easily 3-hit KO Iron Moth, and that's going to hurt really, really bad. But it's a really cool Pokemon, and I'm excited to use it. I've used it once before, but not as a Terra Captain, so as a Terra Captain, I'm sure it's going to put in crazy work. Back to ChatGPT. Now, I said the following to it. I said, Garchomp sounds great. Iron Moth as a Terra Captain sounds good too. What is a Pokemon that can help with bulky waters, can pivot along Iron Moth, and is immune to ground? Roughly what I said. I had a general idea of what I wanted, but the Pokemon it first brought up to me was Rotom Wash, which is absolutely an incredible Pokemon. So round 3, I did get Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash is another amazing pivot Pokemon, but it also has a very, very good bulk. It can come in into a lot of physically offensive threats. It can click Hydro Pump just to nuke these maybe opposing fire types that Iron Moth can't naturally deal with. They can hit ground types that my team kind of struggles with so far, because bulky ground types like Donphan or Great Tusk, like, yeah, I can hit them with coverage with Iron Moth, but ideally I don't have to stay in into like maybe an Assault Vest version of these Pokemon or a Sash version, and it just takes the hit and I croak. That doesn't sound like a great idea, so I'd rather go into a defensive Pokemon that is immediately immune to ground, like Rotom Wash. It also helps with Garchomp, because a lot of these bulky ground types that I am imagining myself struggling with would be like Mamoswine, Donphan, again, Great Tusk. A lot of these Pokemon, Garchomp struggles to hit hard, and they're also threatening it with ice shards, so that priority ice move is something that I can easily switch Rotom into with its water typing, making it resisting those ice type attacks as well. Levitate just gives me that ground immunity, which is super nice, and then otherwise I have Will-O-Wisp. I can pivot out with Volt Switch. I can do discharge stuff to get extra paralysis. I can do Hydro Pump. I can do Nasty Plot, sweeping potentially if like their team is really not prepped for a offensive sweeping Rotom Wash or a breaker of any kind. It can set up screens for my team, which is super nice with my 2 already current sweepers in Garchomp and Iron Moth. That screen support can really help them out in the long run. Foul play means that I can hit these high physically offensive Pokemon that maybe Rotom Wash just isn't so like good at dealing with. An immediate example would be something like Decidueye. Obviously, Rotom Wash kind of struggles with that, and it can probably tank at least a grass type attack. Foul Play is going to hit Decidueye very hard. It's a little bit of an out there example, but Decidueye is the main first one that comes to mind when I think high offensive grass type that is weak to Ghost or weak to Dark. That's my best example. Pain Split lets it have up some sort of recovery. And then Trick Support means that Scarf variants aren't just walled by every grass type known to man. So Rotom Wash is a really good Pokemon that like kind of brings my weaknesses in all together, and makes a nice little core with Garchomp, Iron Moth, and Rotom. Next and final Pokemon that I asked ChatGPT for help on. I did ask for the other ones just to see what if it had any answers, but I don't really recall it giving me anything that was like super ideal. It was mostly just me coming back to it and be like, I got this Pokemon. What was your example for now? But this one, it did help me out with. I said I wanted a bulky fairy. Something with access to hazards, preferably. Wish or Healing Wish would be ideal, and a Pokemon with generally good all around bulk instead of a focus like Florges or Sylveon. I also main reason I wanted this fairy was so I could deal with something like Kyurem, which Kyurem is a Pokemon that my team would very much struggle with. If it's like a Scarf fast version, or if it's like a Pokemon that if it manages to set up Dragon Dance, I can get Garchomp is going to get nuked by any ice type move. Iron Moth is going to get nuked by an earth power as long as I don't Terra out of it. And if I do Terra, what if he predicts me? His physical bulk is not very good. Probably could just kill me with a Scale Shot, to be completely honest. And then Rotom Wash gets hit by the Freeze Dry, so that's a Pokemon that I really could see myself struggling with. I could see it kind of getting a kill every time it came in. So when I typed that in and I sent it out, the first example that it sent me was Clefable. Now this probably wasn't exactly how I worded it with the, bulky fairy, access to hazards, healing wish. Like obviously that pushes you straight towards Clefable. Clefable is an absolutely incredible Pokemon. So guess what I did? I got Clefable. Again, this is the last Pokemon that I kind of had ChatGPT really help me with. Everything else, I came back to ChatGPT just to see if it had any good examples or shouts, but it never really did. It did mention some of these Pokemon, but it was typically like a 5th pick or something like that. It was like, I really don't like this Pokemon, but I thought it was really interesting that ChatGPT was so thorough with its decisions for these Pokemon. So Clefable being its 4th pick kind of really rounds out my main core here. It helps me deal with Kyurem in a major way. These Dragon Dance sets can't break through an unaware Clefable. I'm obviously immune to Dragon type moves, so it can't just spam Choice Specs Dracos. It can hit Ice Beam and it would still hit Clefable really hard, but Clefable also gets me other utility. It gets me Wish support, gets me Healing Wish support, which is a really big one. I really like using Healing Wish. It has incredible coverage, so if I really need to, I can do like a Life Orb Magic Guard Clefable set. Again, does unaware things. If I'm to like a good like hazard setter or something like that, like my example I brought up earlier was Donphan. Clefable naturally outspeeds Donphan, so I can click Encore on that, or maybe I can click like Grass Knot or Ice Beam to potentially get a surprise KO. It does get Stealth Rocks, which is really nice for my team. It doesn't mean Garchomp is forced into clicking Stealth Rocks every single week that it comes in. It does do trick things, so maybe I could trick like a Sticky Barb or something like that, because Magic Guard is going to keep me immune to Sticky Barb. Maybe Toxic Orb would be a little better, so I could avoid paralysis as well, but just an example. Moonblast is a surprisingly powerful attack off of its base 95 special attack. It can set up with Calm Mind pretty comfortably, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, it does get Knockoff, which is a really good utility move. It's another Pokemon that can heal up with Moonlight and Wish as well. It doesn't need to obviously support its fellow teammates. It can set up Light Screen, and I believe it gets Reflect as well. It has absolutely everything, so it's kind of like an example would be Mew. Mew is a Pokemon you can kind of just force it into any specific position that you really want from it, and it's typically going to be pretty good at it. Maybe not like phenomenal, but it would be pretty decent. Clefable's bulk is substantially lower than Mew, but it has similar coverage and it has similar utility, so it's arguably just as good, if not more. Healing Wish is something I don't believe Mew gets, so that's immediately something that puts it aside. And then it has actual recovery, unlike Mew as well. And it also has Baton Pass, which is something I hadn't thought about until right now. That is actually extra pivot, and Clefable's really good at using Baton Pass because of its low speed. So Clefable is actually a really good Pokemon that I'm super excited to try out. Something I noticed before I got to this point was that my team was looking very like Gen 4, Gen 5 core. I think Garchomp, Rotom, and Clefable really make me think that. And then Iron Moth is definitely a Gen 9 Pokemon, but it makes me think of Volcarona every time I look at it. And for some reason, like, obviously these are all Pokemon that have been OU at some time in their lifespan, with actually a couple of them getting banned. Like Uber's was Volcarona's whole thing, and Iron Moth is arguably just better Volcarona, depending on which way you're looking at it. Volcarona was obviously always a Quiver Dance Mon. If Iron Moth had Quiver Dance, it was absolutely broken. But like, Clefable's a really good Pokemon to add onto this team. It really rounds out my defensive core by giving me that extra resistance to Dragon. And it helps me deal with like these dark types and fighting types that I can see myself dealing with, because most of them are physically offensive, and Iron Moth, while it can switch into the fighting type moves for like a little bit, it does not really want to. If I'm gonna get hit by a choice banded Urshifu, and I'm gonna get hit by a close combat, dude, I'm taking like 70% minimum. That is a hefty chunk for a resist. It's not a good fighting resist in any way. But anyways, yeah, that's Clefable. Now I can kind of just start moving on with this. I don't need to keep cutting in and out of the video. Next Pokemon I chose was Bramblegast. I wanted a normal immunity. I wanted priority for ghost type, so I have Shadow Sneak for Dragapult, Spectrier, the like. It gets me Rapid Spin, and it gets me an extra Spikes user, so Garchomp doesn't always have to carry Spikes all the time as well if I really need to get that. It has really strong attacks. It's really high, I believe, like, actually, yeah, it's really high attack at 115. It's a shoot off very powerful Power Whips and Poltergeists. It's actually a comparable attack stat to Gouging Fire, and Gouging Fire already hits super duper hard with these Power Whips and with these Flare Blitzes and whatnot. And Bramblegast's Power Whip is the same base power, so it's gonna be hitting Pokemon really, really hard. I'll be doing 50% to Urshifus all the time. Something like Pecharunt doesn't tank the hit very easily either. Bramblegast, a choice banded Bramblegast into like Pecharunt, max defense Pecharunt, it's taking like 70%. Like, that is a very, very powerful Poltergeist, and the Shadow Sneak is definitely nice as well for something like Dragapult. Choice banded Shadow Sneak will be doing 72% to Dragapult. Into Spectrier, I'll be doing 80% with the choice banded Shadow Sneak, and that's assuming I'm Jolly. If I'm Adamant, obviously I'm doing more. In fact, an Adamant choice band Shadow Sneak into a Spectrier with limited or no extra bulk dies after Stealth Rock Chip. And that's a really, really powerful Pokemon right there. It also has just incredible defensive utility. Its defensive stats aren't incredible with 55 HP and 70 both defenses, but it has Disable, which is really good utility. It has Pain Split for recovery. Strength Sap both weakens the opposing Pokemon's attack stat and raises its HP really, really high. Rapid Spin is just good utility, and it also gets it extra speed. Leech Seed is something that I can see myself clicking now and then. If I'm running into something like Pecharunt, which obviously it doesn't tank the Poltergeist super well anyways, but a Pecharunt will take the Shadow Ball even worse from Bramblegast. In fact, a Shadow Ball from a max special attack, neutral natured Bramblegast will be doing 55%, which isn't so great, but that's no choice specs, and it's much more consistent than Poltergeist ever is. If Pecharunt just doesn't run an item, for example, obviously Poltergeist just misses, and it has natural miss chance as well. I think it's only 90% accuracy, so a consistent Shadow Ball is also a really good move to have on Bramblegast. Next Pokemon I have is Terra Meloetta. This is a Pokemon I've always wanted to try it, but I specifically wanted it so I could try Relic Song. Relic Song with a Terra Meloetta sounds like a really, really good set, and has incredible coverage to make use of it. Knockoff for utility and a powerful Dark type move. It has Triple Axle for a powerful Ice type move. It also has stab close combat after it terrestrializes into the pirouette form, which is really powerful off of the base 128 attack stat that pirouette Meloetta has. But outside of that, it's also just a really good Pokemon. It can set up Swords Dances if Meloetta needs to like have the physical offensive stat, but it can't justify running Relic Song for whatever reason. It can pivot out with U-turn. It can paralyze stuff with Thunder Wave and trick items into another Pokemon like a Choice Scarf or something that makes it maybe not as valuable. It has Calm Mind sets that it constantly uses, and especially with the extra Terra coverage, it just can constantly do really good work into Pokemon. A set I could see myself running often would be like Hyper Voice, Psychic, Calm Mind, and maybe like Terra Blast Fire, Terra Blast Fighting, so I don't always have to turn into Pirouette form to get that fighting coverage. And I wouldn't have to rely on Focus Blasts as an example. It's a really strong Pokemon that I'm super excited to make use of. It also does have access to Trick Room, not a move I see myself often clicking, but if I find a team that has like really good speed control or just really good speed stats in general, I could maybe see myself justifying it. It has Terra, it has normal coverage like all over the place that I don't need Terra all the time, so that's why I can kind of justify running it alongside Iron Moth. It has Terra Fairy, or it has Fairy type moves with Luring Voice, Grass type with Energy Ball, Fighting with Focus Blast, Ghost with Shadow Ball, and Electric with Thunderbolt. That's a bunch of moves right there. And Serene Grace is a move that Meloetta doesn't take like the greatest benefit from, but Relic Song giving it 20% chance to put any Pokemon to sleep that it comes into. If I'm fighting like a Chansey, yes, it has Natural Cure, but it's gonna come into the Relic Song, fall asleep, and then I get a free close combat or low kick or something like that. Maybe I get free setup with Swords Dance. Who knows? It could really bait a lot of Pokemon in just to put them to sleep. A lot of special walls are probably not going to expect a Relic Song, and then it immediately is a fighting type that one threatens them and two has already put the Pokemon to sleep. Like, that's really valuable. It has Perish Song as well, which is something that isn't a move that I'm going to click all the time, but it does force something out for one, and two, if it's a 1v1 and I'm fighting like Terra King Gambit, I just click Perish Song on it, and then one can't outlast me and it can't sucker punch me either, so it's a move I'm gonna be guaranteeing myself to get clicked on it. Next we have Talonflame, which is good speed control for one with 126 base speed. It makes it faster than Weavile, it makes it faster than a lot of these Pokemon, and it also gets Gale Wings, which means I can fire off relatively powerful Brave Birds into these fragile ghost types that I can see myself still struggling with even though I have Meloetta. And it's an extra fairy resist, so I can switch into a Choice Specs Enamorus a lot more easily, with its only moves being what, Superpower, Moonblast, Earth Power, Mystical Fire. Like, yeah, it has the moves, but it doesn't have anything specifically for Talonflame. And Fire Flying is a pretty decent defensive typing. It means I can swap it into these fighting types that could maybe pressure me a little more, because obviously they don't want to get Flame Body procced. It also forces some prep, so they're gonna have to bring like a Lumberry, or if it's a Pokemon with Terra, they might be gonna have to justify always clicking Terra Fire. That adds a lot of value just to matchups. It has U-turn for pivot potential. It has Taunt, so I can prevent other Pokemon from clicking Stealth Rocks. It can heal up with Roost, so I can maybe get more value out of Gale Wings. It's a pretty standard Pokemon. I mean, I don't need to talk about it too much, do I? It has Swords Dance and Bulk Up if I somehow need to, or somehow want to sweep or need to try and sweep. It has Fire Spin stuff, which is kind of interesting. It's always fun to do. It has Will-O-Wisp if I don't want to rely on Flame Body. Maybe I need Gale Wings too much that week. It has Defog mainly, which is another big one. It means Bramblegast isn't going to be the main Rapid Spinner and only hazard removal from the entire team. I can click Defog with Talonflame because it's always going to run heavy duty boots anyways, so it's not like it's weak to it. It has Tailwind support, which could be interesting with Garchomp, letting it outspeed certain Pokemon it normally wouldn't without having to get a boost or having to run a Scarf or something like that. I think that's kind of everything. It has still like a relatively decent special attack stat for what it is. To the point where maybe I can just click Overheat and get a lot of damage off of that. If I'm running into rain teams, I could justify bringing Hurricane over Brave Bird, and maybe that could be good with a Gale Wing set. If I'm doing like Choice Specs Hurricane Talonflame, that could be interesting. So we'll move on to Bisharp. Bisharp is my third and final Terra Captain. Is honestly just a Pokemon that like works really well for the team. I see myself setting up hazards relatively often. I have Garchomp for Stealth Rock and Spikes, Clefable for Rocks, Bearbogast for Spikes, and now I also have Bisharp for Rocks. But people aren't going to want to click Defog on Bisharp because it's going to give a +2 attack stat to Bisharp. Like, that is a lot of attack for a Pokemon that doesn't really need the Eviolite that it's been granted access to in Gen 9. I can see myself running Life Orb. I can see myself running Black Glasses just for the higher damage, maybe an Air Balloon now and then if I don't want to go Terra Flying for the week, because maybe another Terra Captain on my team is a lot more valuable. But the Eviolite is no less amazing because of that. It just gives me so much bulk. It being a not real Steel type in a way, with its dark typing, it doesn't resist these fairy type attacks that most Steel types are made for, or at least currently drafted for. But with that extra bulk, if I need to, I can go max HP, max special defense, and suddenly this Pokemon is taking nothing from a lot of fairy types that are main like big threats. So we'll test that out. A careful Bisharp with all of its special defense investment into something like a Choice Specs Sylveon. Yes, I'm taking a lot of damage, but it's a Choice Specs Pixelate boosted Hyper Voice from Sylveon, which has a naturally base 110 special attack. I'm not even guaranteed to get 2-hit KO'd after Stealth Rock Chip. That is crazy. And I do a lot of damage in return, obviously. I'm doing like 90% with an Iron Head to the Sylveon set. And Namorous is another Pokemon that with the Choice Specs and Moonblast is doing not even, most of the time it's not even doing 50% to Bisharp, and then I just get a really powerful Iron Head into Sucker Punch off to guarantee a kill. It's a Pokemon that it gets a lot of bulk from that Eviolite. It can do pretty interesting stuff. It has the main thing with Bisharp that puts it over Kingambit in a lot of different scenarios is that it has a higher speed stat. Bisharp is 20 points faster than Kingambit. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It forces a lot of Pokemon like Heatran to put more investment into their speed, so it's not as bulky. It forces Pokemon like maybe Petrunt in a scenario where it has to outspeed Bisharp, or else it's just going to justify getting O-Code every time. Or maybe it forces itself to underspeed it, but like it's a lot of stuff that Bisharp forces on prep just because it's faster. Its attack stat is still monstrous, so that Iron Head is going to be doing incredible damage. And with my Terra, that means I can do stuff like Terra Dark or Terra Flying, but let's just do Terra Dark as an example. If I do Terra Dark, Life Orb, max attack Bisharp into something like Petrunt, my Throat Chop is going to be doing 85% to max HP Petrunt. It's going to be doing 70% to max defense Petrunt. That is a very powerful attack. And Petrunt is a Pokemon that like my team, I could see it struggling with, especially if it's going to be like a weird Assault Vest set, or maybe Garchomp kind of helps with it, but it's just so bulky and it's annoying that it's going to come in against Bisharp. It's going to click Parting Shot, and I'm going to be +3 Bisharp with Defiant, boosting up my attack stat. That is pretty huge. And that's not everything that it's capable of doing. Great Tusk is a Pokemon that I could see myself maybe struggling with even still. Close Combat into Rotom Wash, Headlong Rush into Clefable means that these Pokemon, while they can swap into it, aren't going to be reliable every time. Bisharp isn't a reliable check, but it does still have its access to Terra Flying. It kind of baits Great Tusk to stay in a little bit. And then if I need to, I can do... Actually, I think, funnily enough, Air Slash is my best attack for Great Tusk a lot of the time. It's really funny. Air Slash does 70% with no investment, while Terra Blast does 72% with max attack investment. So that's something that I could actually do with Bisharp, which would be really funny. I feel like I kind of ranted on Bisharp, but I like Bisharp, and I am excited to use it as a Terra Captain. I think it's going to force a lot of prep, and I'm excited to use it as such. Copperajah is a Pokemon I've used before. I don't remember if you guys have seen the videos for my Copperajah season, but it's really good roll compression mon. It's good defensively. It can kind of swap into anything it resists, and it forces those Pokemon to respect it in prep. if an example would be, again, Enamorus. It's going to click Moonblast onto Copper. I'm going to have an Assault Vest Copper, and it's going to take absolutely nothing. Max Special Defense Copper into an Enamorus. A Choice Specs variance doing not even 30% with the Moonblast, and then obviously I threaten with an Iron Head, or I threaten Stealth Rocks, or I threaten Knockoff, or a lot of these things that are going to force Enamorus to switch out on me because it probably needs its item in order to deal with the rest of my team. It has powerful heavy slams because it's an absolutely monstrous Pokemon. I can set up Stealth Rocks as another Pokemon alongside Bisharp if I really need it to. It does get that knockoff utility, which is really huge. It gets ground type coverage, it gets fighting type coverage, it gets fairy type coverage, and Sheer Force just boosts all of that. A Sheer Force, Life Orb, Rock Slide, Play Rough, Iron Head is a set that I could see myself running genuinely. It's just gonna do so much damage. I can do Zen Headbutt, I can do Superpower, I can do Supercell Slam. It's just a Pokemon that it takes every hit and it comes in and it threatens with monstrous damage with its massive and titanically large 130 base attack stat. Its HP helps out with its defenses, even though its defenses are pretty low. Its HP is just so high. It's Pokemon I've used before, it's Pokemon I love to use, so I grabbed it mainly for comfortability and because Bisharp is not a real steel type that I felt like Copperajah really did help out. It was actually one of the Pokemon I was debating for Terra type alongside Bisharp. The next one you actually already see, and it's purely because he's cool. But Copperajah's standard, I don't need to talk about him too much, that's what he does. We have next Phalanx, and Phalanx is a Pokemon I really didn't need because I already have Meloetta Pirouette form, which is a Pokemon I think I'm going to run quite often as a fighting type. But Phalanx is something that I think is super cool. No Retreat is epic, and that's literally all I have him for. It does have priority with First Impression, which is really cool, but No Retreat, Close Combat, Iron Head, and Stone Edge or Mega Horn or any of these random coverage moves that Phalanx can justify running, maybe Knockoff. If I have a good matchup, Phalanx can come in, it can sweep the entire enemy team, and it's going to be difficult for them to stop as well because that extra boost to its defenses alongside No Retreat, it's nothing to scoff at. It has a pretty bad speed tier, so even after No Retreat, a lot of these faster threats are still going to be able to out prioritize it and get a maybe Killing Blow, but it also has access to Defiant, so a lot of these fast bird Pokemon that maybe are going to want to click Defog on Phalanx are suggested not to because they don't want it to be so overly powerful. If I don't want to click No Retreat, it does have access to Swords Dance, but that's not as fun. And again, yeah, Phalanx was also a Terra Captain at one point, but I felt like it just didn't really provide enough for it. It gave it the defensive Terra type, but it mostly wanted the coverage, and its attacks that's not high enough to really make use of that coverage all the time. But Phalanx is a Pokemon I just think he's really cool. I mean, look at him. And next we have Baxcalibur, and again, Baxcalibur is similar to Phalanx where I really didn't need it, but I had the points for it, so I figured why not. It gives me a double Dragon Core with Garchomp, so against some of these teams that maybe don't have a super duper powerful fairy type, Garchomp and Baxcalibur is going to really overwhelm the teams. It's going to let me click Draco Meteors, it's going to let me click Outrageous, it's going to let me click Glaive Rush with Baxcalibur. And these teams are going to just absolutely crumple by the overwhelming might that is Garchomp and Baxcalibur. But that is gonna be the team. We have Garchomp, we have Iron Moth, Rotom Wash, Clefable, Brambleghast, Meloetta, Talonflame, Bisharp, Copperajah, Phalanx, and Baxcalibur. I hope you guys like the draft analysis. I know it's quite long, but I wanted to take my time with this and be comfortable and actually, like, you know, talk it through with people instead of just putting out something that I might not have really put a lot of thought into. I want to actually have some thought put into this, even though I don't think I was the most concise speaker of all time during this video. I still hope you guys all enjoyed, and then I hope you guys are all looking forward towards my WPF season. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye bye.